All right. Hello, and welcome to Follow Up Boss Office Hours. Excited to have you guys here. Thanks for joining in. If you're with us live, that's fantastic. You can drop questions or whatnot, say hello. If you're watching the recording of this, then leave a comment, tag Allison or I. We'll be happy to join. My name is Lee Adkins. I'm your host. Allison Maltese is with me today. What's
Hi,
up, Allison?
what's up? Good to see ya.
Good to see you. So tell us a little bit of your background and what you do at Follow Up Boss, and then we'll dive right into our lovely session on autoresponses.
Woo, I'd love to. Again, I'm Allison. I have been with Follow Up Boss all going on 3 years. 3 years this October. Very exciting. I'm a success manager, so I work with new teams, getting them onboarded on the system. If you're a pro team, I will work with you after that for strategy, team member training, all of that good stuff. So love being here. Great to see you again, Lee. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for being on. And I'm excited for this topic because it's relatively simple and easy to execute, but it's also kind of more about the strategy, right? It's more about like, what are we going to do with this easy tool?
Right.
And how do we not make it feel super automated? We don't want people to, feel like it's an auto response, but sometimes we just need the system to do stuff for us because we're out on the road or doing other stuff. So,
That's right.
um, so normally I would just kind of say, why does this matter? I think it's sort of easy, but do you want to just give any context around auto responses, emails, automations before we dive into the screen share?
Yeah, absolutely. Remember that Follow Up Boss is very much set up for your one-on-one communication. And we have the ability to send those auto responses because, again, you are busy. We want to get an initial touch out as soon as somebody comes through the system. Speed to lead is important to you. So while you are, having those one-on-one conversations, we've also got things rolling on the back end for your nurture leads, for example, your past clients. Just making sure you are staying in touch with everybody, even if it's not your effort and time going into it, you've already got something rolling on the back end. So we
Absolutely.
like
And there
that.
are a lot of things too I think people don't think about is that you're sending this email, it's going through Follow Boss. If they click or open, you're going to see that and you go, oh, this is a good email. If you send a text and it doesn't say landline or filtered or not delivered,
Yeah.
probably a good phone number. So there's lots of context we can also get from some of these things. So cool. Well, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, that's great. Do you want to like build one of these first, or do you want to talk about use cases? Like whatever you want to do is great.
Trying to think. So what I want to do first actually is kind of remind you all that you do have pre-built action plans and automations in Follow Up Boss. Can I quickly define those two? I think it might be
Yeah,
helpful.
it's a great idea.
And if you are in the admin area, remember that's where you're creating all of this. The action plan, think of this as the thing you want to happen. This is the series of emails I want to go out when triggered, or a task-based checklist. That's the thing you want to happen. When you build that action plan, it's going to sit there until you trigger it. And there are a few different ways that you can trigger those, which we'll talk about. But the automation is the thing that's going to say, here's how, on the back end, when I make a change in Follow Up Boss, an update to a stage or add a tag, that's when that's going to trigger that plan. So just kind of a quick, definition of each of those, because they can be confusing at first. So you're going to see in your account pre-built action plans. There is a great help center guide. So I guess, Lee, I'm starting with what we already have.
Yeah, this is great.
Okay, so we have in our help center, if you click the question mark here and go to help center, I just want to show everybody this really quick. If I can spell it, recommended action plans. This is an awesome guide to show you what we've already got. So if you're looking for some guidance, okay, I nurture re-engagement, for example, what does Follow Up Boss recommend? We do have that stuff already available. And these are already, again, in the system. You can edit them as needed, but these are our recommendations. You're also going to see some linked from the action plan library, which is a cool place where other Follow Up Boss users have shared things that they've built that you can copy right over into your account. Lots going on there, lots to go through. But again, in our recommended plans, we do recommend some of those that you can go ahead and link and copy over.
Yeah, those are great. In fact, can you drop a link to that specific help desk article in the chat too, just
Sure
for
can.
ease of
That's a great idea.
ease of
Yes.
everyone finding it? But yeah,
Mhm.
I think, I don't want to get on a high horse about this, but like I think too many people stress way too hard about action plans. Like there's no magical action plan. Like there's no blanket email you can write that's going to convert 10,000 different people with different needs, with different interests, looking at different places and different price points. Like, it's just not a thing. That said, as long as you're not just trying to let an action plan convert a lead for you, like, it does not replace contacting them. In fact, I followed up with a client right before this and I was like, hey, let's just turn this on. Like, it's not perfect. Yeah, there might be edits. We could probably edit it for 4 months and come up with the right per thing. Let's send it into the real world, check the stats, and learn over time. So using the stock action plans, like, if you don't have plan, or you don't have a strategy, or you're not sure, just go with the recommended ones. Like you said, Allison, you can modify them in your own account. So if you don't like the language, you want to add links to your own website. Awesome.
Exactly. And I've just pulled up our buyer long-term nurture plan. Again, I just searched for that. So when you look at the recommended plans, you can just copy and paste those in the search. As you can see, this is a series of emails, which we've got a little check-in task to call that person. You can click these emails. These are email templates already saved in the system. You can edit as needed. Right. So if you wanted to just kind of tweak it a little bit, you can. But the bottom line being, there's a whole list of these plans that are already in the system. I want to quickly jump over to automations just to remind you that with those action plans that we have, you are going to see automation triggers that are corresponding with them. So that's where, again, we'll get into it, but you can say, whenever I move somebody to the nurture stage, that nurture plan is going to start. So you do have the automations already set up as well, if you want to turn them on. Like Lee was saying, let's just get this going. That's where you'd pop over to automations and toggle on whatever automation you'd like. So we'll get more into that. Lee, do you think we should talk about building an action plan?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's get the thing made, since you have to make it first anyway, and then how to apply it.
Let's build. Yeah, we'll build the plan first. So this is like a layer cake. First thing to note is that if you've got custom content that you want going out into the world, like your emails, right, you got to create those first, because they're the building blocks for the action plan. If you get into building an action plan, you can see that you can choose the action to send an email, but if you don't have your template saved, you got to go back and create it anyway. So
I still do this every time. I'm like, I'm going to build an action plan. I'm like, I got to make the template first.
So yeah, that's your bottom layer, your building block. So in the email, again, still in this admin area, email templates here. Remember that I was saying too, like all of those, like the nurture templates, they're saved here in this area. But here's where you're going to create a new one, this blue bubble. Super simple.
That is a good point. I kind of don't want to interrupt, but I'm going to at least say it real quick. To your point, those templates are in your account and you can modify them. I know I kind of already said this, but again, if you're looking for I need a leg up, but I want to make my own, you can modify the existing templates and put them into your own plan as well.
Right. Yeah. And you should see that you can duplicate them. I don't see that here, but
yeah, I'm not sure why. Although, you know what, I think that's only in plans. I'm not sure if you can do it with templates.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That happens to me all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna copy it.
Copy and paste.
The other trick, not to get too in the weeds, the other trick is to potentially use multiple tabs. So you can toggle, make a template, do a thing, or copy an old template into a different template, whatever. So that can be
right clicking, new tab over here, etc. Okay, yeah. So you can do all those tricks. Again, I think, copy and pasting, editing these emails, you can do it. When you click the new email template bubble, the thing I want to note here is that you have to give it a name. This is where you can really organize by, what's the name of my action plan going to be? Name of action plan, email 1. Something that is really going to give you a convention for your, following emails. Just keep that in mind so that you don't get confused when you're trying to pull them. But in any case, you're then just drafting that email. You've got your merge fields. Remember to personalize. So when you click this is where you're going to pull that person's name, for example, from the contact profile. This is where we get into making it feel less like a template and more like something that you really wrote to them, right?
Absolutely.
Anything?
No, I think that's great. I think I'm annoyed that your share this template box is not grayed out. Mine's always grayed out and I have to come back and check it. But if you're building an action plan that's going to run for a team, for other users, it is super important that you have this box checked, because otherwise it won't go out from that person if they can't see it, so to speak. So really important if it's a shared plan, meaning more than one user in your account's using it, that you do have that checked. And then I was going to kind of wait, but we're there anyway. Putting these into folders is all, putting your email templates into folders can be good. They don't have to be one folder per action plan, but it's a lot easier if you're kind of like, when we get into building the actual action plan, it's a lot easier if you don't have to Allison's point, A, name it well, but B, if you put it in a folder, it does make it a lot easier just to say, oh, here's all my nurture emails instead of like searching them every time.
Yeah, exactly. And you can create your folders and add here as needed. Cool. Okay, so good. Yeah, that's you creating the building blocks. Yeah, and we do again have a help center guide. You can always go to the help center and just type in your keywords, and there you go. Everything you need to know about creating email templates, right?
Exactly. That
Remember
and the
that.
YouTube channel, just to get a quick YouTube tip.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Do you want me to pull that up, Lee?
Actually, I'll drop a link to it.
Link it.
We'll get into a rabbit hole if we go into actual YouTube,
Right.
but I'll drop a link to the YouTube channel because again, lots of great short videos, lots of office hours, lots of other sessions with great detail on some of these things if you really want to know all the things.
Absolutely. Good deal. Okay, so that's your building block. That's your bricks, right? So now we're going to build the plan. So you're popping back over into action plans. Again, you've got your blue bubble to get started. Here, I'm going to go through just a couple of details in the top, just a tiny little nuances. The name, remember your naming convention, obviously keep that the way that you want it for best organization. This is really important. It always highlights everything. This is a really important checkbox to consider. Automatically pause the plan when the lead responds. This means if you do have an initial text, which we'll talk about, or if you have an email, you're sending an auto email and a response comes back to that text or email, the plan is going to pause. You are going to see that in the action plans area of a contact's profile. You're going to see that it's paused there. You can then resume if you lose them, maybe, but what we don't want is for automated stuff to be going out while you're having one-on-one communication. So once they respond, the plan pauses, and then you can resume it as needed manually. Keep that in mind though. Oops, got to go back. Keep that in mind when you're setting this. It will default check. If for some reason you just want it to keep going, even if they do respond, you can deselect that.
Yeah, and I want to mention something real quick, and I'm maybe the only one in the room that knows this, but the old Follow Up Boss 1 actually had a contacted or not contacted button. I actually personally loved it. It's probably just because I got used to it. But it was easy. It was a little easy to see. But I think, and we're going to get into this in a minute, but I want to say it now. That's a great box to have checked for like new lead plans that come in lead flow. If you're applying something later via like an automation or whatever, you probably want to be careful with that box because that means if they've ever, even if they responded, who is this? Take me off, like whatever it is, it would stop this from running. So if you were trying to apply this, just to say, I'm getting a little ahead, but if you were to apply this via an automation, say you change the stage to nurture or unresponsive, but they replied ever to a text or an email or a call, this will not run at all. So just be really mindful. It doesn't mean when they respond to this plan, it means they have communicated with you. So it really is a super important box. I'm glad you highlighted it.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Right. Yeah, good to know. That's a great point. Moving down to include all email addresses, that means that they will be sent to the main email address and then anyone who's a relationship in the contact profile. So remember, you've got your relationships listed. If they have an email address and you want it to go to them, that's what include all means. Share with everyone, just like your email templates, that just is going to share with your team. There are other ways to share publicly, like we were talking about the action plan library. Share with everyone in these instances just means your team, so that your team can view that plan.
Yeah,
Cool.
great point. Thank you for adding that. That's
So we
not super intuitive, although I never thought about it that way. Not share with everyone in the world, share with everyone in your account.
I get questions about it because we do have that other public sharing option. So we give you the first step to kind of, it's open so we can look at it here. A few important things to consider. This is saying when we're looking at this word immediately here, 0 days after the previous step, that means when it is triggered by triggers that we'll talk about, then this first action is going to occur. So You can have internal tasks that would, those are going to show up in your task tab. Give them a name, etc., just like you're creating a task as you normally would. Let's just talk about emails because we've been on that subject. Your action is where you're going to change that. What is the action? What's the thing I want to happen now? Send email is that option. That's where you can go ahead and pop your template in. So you're just going to click here. You've got your whole list of email templates. That's why the name of it's so important. And then you can, type in whatever and then do a search and grab it, right? Change it up. The from option here, you have a choice. If it's in an email that always needs to go out from the same person, you can pick a team member for that. Typically, most teams I see will use agent assigned to the contact, so it's coming from the assigned agent. Anything else there, Lee? Just like step one?
Not really, but I do love the from option, and the assigned agent is typically the default. But I see people use these for things like if they have an admin that does certain things as part of a, maybe not the whole plan, but it's like, oh, great, this happened. We need to notify somebody else. So it's super handy that you can say like, oh, make sure this email comes from our admin, or make sure our admin gets this task and somebody else gets a different task.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, that's great. And I don't think we'll get into much detail on it, but just all the different things you can do there, the stage change. Like I think the email is our focus.
Right.
But just all the cool things you can do there with adding or removing tags, starting plans, adding collaborators.
Pausing other plans. I see that sometimes when this one
Yeah, I
goes
think the
out.
remove all tags is new. That sounds really scary, but
Yeah, it's a little scary.
it's there.
Yeah. So watch where you're clicking. But yes, the two most popular, I do kind of think these are in order of how used they are. I mean, at least the first few tasks, internal for you, emails outgoing to the contact, stage updates. That is getting a little more in the weeds, but yeah, lots of cool stuff you can do. The only other thing I want to show you really quick about building is this timeline thing. So when you're done with that first step, we're sending that first email, you're just going to click add step here. That just gives you step 2. Important to decide, when is the next thing happening? If you want, say, an email and a task to go out at the same time, you can keep them both with this immediately. So you can have things running at the same time if you need to. Or maybe say this is just an fully email-based action plan. You've got email number 2. How many days after the first email do I want the next one to go out? So if I type 3 days later, you're going to see this change to 4th day. This is really important just for your timing to decide when the next thing is happening. And you'll always see this update to kind of show you, okay, which day from the day of it being triggered does the next thing happen? And that's it.
Cool. Do you want to go ahead and save that, or do you want to add another step? I was going to show one quick thing after it's saved.
Office
Oh yeah.
hours test. Okay.
So
Cool.
the edit mode like that is great for exactly what you just showed, but sometimes I know for my brain, sometimes it's helpful for me to think like, oh, this is on the 3rd day, or this is instead of 4 days later. So if you could just go back to that same plan and just hit the eyeball instead of the edit. Just wanted to show people how you can, or go back one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, hit the view instead of the edit. I like to, it's funny, I toggle between the two. For me, sometimes it's helpful to look at it in this view.
Yeah, that's cool.
As far as like delay 3, it's just a little different.
Yeah.
The only downside to this is it doesn't show you the email subjects, but there's reasons that I toggle between the two. Because you can kind of see different things in both. So just wanted to mention that, because some people's brains really think in like 3 days later, and some people think more in, there's somewhere where you display them where it literally says like on the 15th day and on the 18th day. So
yeah, that is going to give you like the different, because the other one says on the 4th day instead of delay 3. I do have some people sometimes who will ask, can I print this out or something? This is a good way to view it. You'd have to print from your browser. There isn't a print function in FUB, but I have, this is a way for you to get this, on a page if you need it. Or again, just be able to scroll down and look at this in a different way. It's nice.
That's a great idea. Yeah, the printing thing is good. A lot of people enjoy that. So, but that's a great call. Yeah, you would just use your browser print mode.
Right. But it will give you a nice way to look at it.
And it doesn't fill out merge codes, obviously. So you still have to use your brain or imagination a little bit on okay, it's going to do that or say that. But
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, we've built it. Again, they're here in your action plans folder. As you create them, they're going to go to the My Action Plans folder. So just know that, but you can right here add other folders if you want to organize your plans further. Okay. So, Lee and I were talking, I kind of told him I have a big three in terms of how the plans are, and there is just a big three in terms of how the plans are triggered. There's 3 different ways we can trigger a plan. I'll start really simple. The first way, and this is something that anybody on the team can do if they have access to the plan because you shared it, anyone can come to a contacts profile. In this action plans widget over here on the right-hand side of the profile, you can just manually apply the plan whenever you want. It's that simple. You'll click the Start Action Plan plus sign. You'll choose the name of your plan and just apply it. And we'll just do that for me because it's just me. So here's what it'll look like.
we can pause it though, so we don't drip on you for a year.
I've got so many coming
I
in.
do too. All my demo accounts too. It's like lead plus demo plus whatever at wherever. Welcome to,
Yeah, all the time. But yes, so that's what it looks like. And I was talking about pausing and resuming before. This is the manual way. You're just applying it to somebody's profile if you feel like you're ready to go with that, right? You can do that at any time. So that's the first way. The second way, are we ready for this, Lee, to get into?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We just had a question right about this. So
oh, good. All right, perfect. Yeah, so the second way is for brand new leads coming into the system. This is huge. So in the admin area, in your lead flow page, right, this is your hub for your different lead sources. You can see here that we can apply action plans to each individual source. So you might have a different plan for realtor.com that you have for your Facebook leads, that you have for your website. That's where you can customize that, right? So if you see no action plan, that's what it's going to say here. If there isn't one, that's when you kind of know, hey, maybe I should check this out and apply something. The cool thing about action plans that are triggered from the lead flow page, again, the trigger is the lead coming into the system, right? These plans, okay, let me duplicate this tab. Okay, these plans have that initial text option. This is the one time where you can get that auto text out as part of the action plan to the contact. So as soon as the lead comes in, you can delay it a few minutes if you want, but they're getting an initial text. So here's an example of that. We've got one already built for you, the Zillow TrulyARealtor.com with text message plan. This is just a great text template to kind of show you what a plan with a text looks like. You will see up here at the top, add initial text message. This is what it looks like when you click that so that you can get your text message content into the system. Again, you can use those merge fields just like you do for emails. I just got your message. Do you have a couple minutes to tell me more? The agent. So this is going to pull in the assigned agent's name, right? So that's the text area. You can delay it and it'll be sent from the assigned agent's follow-up boss phone number or the company number if they don't have one.
Yeah, one more important thing on this. This is still a text message. It still follows the guidelines of other text messages. So be very mindful of your language. Don't put a bunch of links into it. All the same rules apply to getting in texting jail. Plus, again, we want this, to your point and what we said earlier, Allison, we want it to still feel real. We don't want it to feel like an auto response. That's a huge part of the point of this. So I find delaying it is pretty huge, even if it's just 1 minute, because people realize they didn't just fill out the form. Now, this may depend if you're routing leads first to claim. There's a couple of nuances, but if you delay it just a little bit and use some of these merge codes, it's much more powerful. Like I see people all the time responding like, wow, thank you for getting back to me so quickly. Because it feels fast, but it doesn't feel instantaneous. And it's not like, hello, thank you for inquiring on our website. Can I call you? It's like,
you hit send and immediately get a text. Yeah.
Right. Hey, Bob, I got your inquiry on property address. When's a good time to talk? That's a great, initial message. But again, I just want to make sure people aren't putting in a bunch of links, click on the thing, do this. When the thing fill out the survey, it's like, no, we're just trying to get them to
don't add your signature. Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple, keep it short, and keep it kind of personal. Give it your voice. That's the word I always like to use when you're editing your email templates or texting is use your voice, your team's voice, So that's important. If you have this action plan created with the initial text and you go to apply it manually to someone's profile, just if you wanted the rest of the emails to go out or something, or if you trigger it from our automations, that text isn't going to go out. So you will see the rest of the action plan, but just know that the text will only go out when it is applied from the lead flow page. So it's on one of your lead flow sources to go out, triggered by a new lead coming in. Cool. The only other thing I'll say too, something that I see sometimes with teams is they've got an action plan set up on the lead flow page, but they've also got an automation set up for it. Remember, that's not necessary because in this case, specifically, when you've got a plan on the lead flow page, it's already being triggered. The trigger is a new lead coming through. So no need to create a separate automation when you apply a plan on your lead flow page. Cool.
Well, we got some questions, so let's stay here. I'm answering a few in the thing, and then I'm also trying to think about this while I'm answering questions.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
So yeah, so a couple of things here. I'm typing one answer, but I'll also kind of reiterate it. So number one, and you said this, I just want to reiterate it. And we're in blur mode because we have to be. But if we weren't, you could see the actual source name.
Realtor.com.
So one of the things Allison, was showing is that, there is a lead flow for each lead source. So it is quite easy to say, send my Zillow leads this, send my realtor leads this, send, my website leads something different. Now, again, you don't want 900 different action plans and different language and all that, but there are nuances. Like one of the questions is about the realtor.ca, which is a little bit different than realtor.com. It just is sending you leads on your own listings versus like paying for zip codes. But so if you were doing this, we'll stick with this example. If you were doing it for, say, a realtor.ca, you might want a specific plan because number one, it's your listing, or a company listing. There's a few things you know about that because of that lead type. And so potentially creating a different action plan for that specifically could be important. And to your point, Allison, you can go into action plans and hit replicate, hit the copy. So you can make a copy. If you're like, my Zillow one's great, but I want to modify it for realtor.com, you can duplicate it. Do be mindful that they share the same template. So if you edit a template, it would edit on both. But again, kind of an easy button. Let's just say you wanted to change the initial text message was the only thing you wanted to change. Be really easy to do it that way. And then one of the other questions about the realtor.ca was including the address of the property. 9 times out of 10 in these, and let's go ahead and do this, Allison. Let's hop to text templates. I think they're asking about text in particular.
Yeah, sure.
We'll just go ahead and make a new one. Okay. You can use the property inquiry merge code because the realtor.ca inquiry comes in as a what's called a property inquiry in Follow Up Boss. And so if you use the property inquiry merge code, inquiry address, it'll say, hey, thanks for reaching out about that property. Test it. A great way to test these, by the way, sorry, I'm getting a little off script. Great way to test these, by the way, is just go into a record, ideally someone you know, or a fake one that's you. And if you apply them.
You have one in here? I don't know if I could find it. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, probably not.
Yeah.
Or whatever, save that one or whatever makes sense. Oh, that has a phone number, but it's fake.
Right. Okay.
But that's where it will fill in that inquiry address for you. Right. So show again real quick how you actually added that, though.
Your merge fields dropdown is large. There's a lot here. So you can see they're categorized: contact information, company information, agent, right? So I scrolled down to property, and here is where I chose inquiry address. Yeah. And to Lee's point, it's dependent on what we're able to get from the lead source. So if you've got a lead source coming in that's not providing that inquiry address, they're going to get a text that says, I saw you were inquiring about inquiry address. So you do want to be sure that that information is coming into Follow Up Boss from the lead source. You will see it. I don't have a good example, but in the activity tab of your contact, you will see how they've come through, and you'll see whether or not that address is listed from the source. So, and that's really just a good quick example. At any time you want to know, where did this lead come from? How did it originate? The activity tab is going to show you that. So that's where you can see whether the address came through or it didn't.
Right. And it also says, kind of an easy button for that as well, is it also says in the timeline, it'll say property inquiry or registration. Like there's a few different types of events. I know most people don't pay attention to that nerdy stuff, but like you will see it says in the timeline.
Here's an example. Here we go.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. I don't know how Fred Flintstone did that.
Yeah. Well, I faked it and pushed him in
They're a
there.
modern Stone Age family, right?
That's right. They can do all the things. They have dial up now, so they can.
I'm sorry for the dad joke,
They
but
have
this is a
follow
good
up.
example. See, you can see that the address has come through. So if we were to send that text to Fred, then yes, that address would show, right? Okay. Where were we then? So that's the lead flow. So just remember with the text, let me go back to that text template. You're using the merge fields, and quick thing too, be sure to punctuate after the merge field. So when you're saying hi, contact first name, remember your commas. Just treat that merge field as though it is the actual name or address and punctuate as you normally would.
Actually, do you want to go ahead and save that text template so we can show what I was saying, like show the sending a test, or you don't have to actually send it?
Yeah.
In fact, we can go back to Fred because he had an inquiry.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay. So how would I do this, Lee? You want me to just pop the template in here?
Yeah, just send the template and it'll fill in the merge codes for us. So
Right.
yeah, just go ahead and hit templates, and then I think we call it office hours or
Yeah, text tab, templates are here, and I called it office hours text. So right, see, there you go. Hi, Fred. I saw you were inquiring about 10 my open house drive.
so that's a great way to test this before you just turn it on and hope it sends the right stuff. Like if you go to an existing contact and apply an email template or a text template, you can see it fill out the merge codes. So again, it's just the good thing about Follow Boss merge codes is they're pretty intuitive if the data doesn't exist. For example, if there is no property address, it'll revert to the source automatically. So it'll say, hey, thanks for your inquiry from realtor.com if there's no address or realtor.ca or whatever.
Yeah, like this one's going to say about your property. I saw you were inquiring about your property inquiry.
Oh, right. But this is why you want to test it, because you want to get your language right. Like the time of day, there's a great time of day thing that says morning, afternoon or night. But you want to put a good before it, otherwise it's just going to say morning, which is okay. But
right.
So again, I just think testing these is smart before you turn it on to like 500 leads and hope it,
Exactly.
does
Yeah,
something.
good testing. And then we showed you, because I didn't come through the lead flow page. It's just going to say good greeting time, right? Actually, that one is usually one, but and this one's called greeting time, just so you know, since you mentioned it, it's all the way at the bottom, or almost all the way at the bottom.
Yes.
For the custom fields.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of custom fields in here, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, play around with those, but do test first, because you want to make sure with each lead source that the merge fields match up to what we're pulling from the source. That's the most important thing. Okay, so that is the second way that you can trigger an action plan manually from the profile or here on the lead flow page. The extra fun thing here is that you get that auto text going out. The next way is the most common, and this is what we use, so automations for contacts that are already in the system. So this is when, again, you've got your buyer long-term nurture plan. When I make a change to someone and I move them to the nurture stage, that's going to trigger that plan every time. So I want to review these triggers with you so that you can see exactly what types of changes in the system can trigger an action plan. So let's just pretend we're creating a new one. This one's, remember, it's kind of hides up here, but this is where you're going to give it a title. Okay, here are your triggers. So this is a when-then situation. When I, for example, change the stage, it's going to choose all of the different stages that you have listed in the stage field of the profile. When I move somebody to hot, right? Or let's do cold, because that's more typical. When I move somebody to cold, right? And they're 6+ months out from a transaction, then my plan, again, whatever it is that you choose, is going to trigger. So once you save this and enable it, that's the trigger and it's set up. So anytime anybody on your team changes the stage to see cold, that plan's going to go out, right? You also do have conditions, not to get too crazy into this. If say one person on your team wants to be excluded from this action plan or automation, right? They don't want that to happen when they change someone to cold. You can add conditions here. So you could say, okay, when I change the stage and the agent is not Caroline doesn't want any part of this, then it'll go out. So not to get too granular, but that's what those conditions are. So to back up a little bit, here are all the different ways that you can trigger a plan. So stage change, we've talked about, that's changing the stage in someone's profile. Adding a specific tag. So that's your tagging area in the contact profile. Whenever I move somebody to, or I tag them open house, something happens, right? Deal stage change. So, really important to note the difference between these. This is going to be, if you are using our deals transaction management area, when I move somebody to the deal close stage, something's going to happen. So, when you, just real quick, if you customize your deal stages, it will pull any of these. So even if you've customized, we're going to show you all the different stages here in the automation. So that's kind of the different, keep in mind the different stage changes. Is it a profile stage change or a deal stage change, right? Okay. The next three, new inquiry, property saved, or property viewed. This is website activity. If you've got the pixel set up on your website, when somebody submits a new inquiry, or they save a property or view one on your site, that can trigger something. So you do want to make sure that we are pulling your pixel activity, your website activity via that pixel. And then the last one is calendar date. This is associated with any of your deal custom field dates, so deal close date or any deal custom fields, or the custom fields that you add in the contact profile that are date fields. So for example, if you see, I'm in the deals area, any of these deal custom field dates, appraisal due date. When appraisal due date is in a week, I've got an email going out, right? So that's deal custom field date. Remember, you've got the custom fields in the contact profile as well, down here at the bottom left. So any of your custom field dates that you've created, right? Appointment set. Oh, that's a bad example. Close date. Anytime you got a calendar date field, that's going to trigger. So that's what we're showing here. And when you do it, that's when you're choosing the date. So is it, say, when deal close date is in, again, 7 days? What do I want to happen at that point? Okay, Lee, what did I miss?
No, I think that's great. I love the dates in particular because those are really good triggers. Obviously, this is how you send the birthday email. If you want to send a birthday email, day of, day before, whatever. The birthday's in 1 day, send it. Or if it's today, send it. I'm always a little delicate with these for transactional things. They can certainly be done for that and for certain things, but you definitely want to be too careful about automating, like, congrats, you're binding, and you're like, oh, it was the wrong day, or we did this thing, or it's really tomorrow because it's at midnight, or like, just be mindful of that. But yeah, use the dates are so powerful. The back on site stuff is really powerful. Somebody saves a property on your site, you can send them an email that says, hey, do you want to go see this tomorrow? Like, we're not going to get too in the weeds on that, but there's a lot of things. And you explained this really well, but I want to reiterate it. There's a reason we did this in the order we did. Mm-hmm. The manual one is easy. Somebody clicks on it and it does it and it goes. The lead flow is automatic, but it's only for new leads. And the automations, number one, do not fire on new leads because they're coming through the lead flow anyway.
Right.
And they don't fire in bulk. So if you're trying to move 400 people to the nurture stage and trigger an action plan, it won't do that. It will do it one by one. It will not do it in massive bulk. So just be mindful that your automations truly fire one-to-one on existing leads. Kind of an important caveat. And I liked your example too of the conditions. Yeah, you have a few people on your team that kind of are independent agents and they don't want the same plans to go out. Add the condition that, don't send it if the agent's Bob or Susie, or only if it is, Lee and Caroline or whatever. But those conditions are really important. Things like tags. If you have people tagged like do not contact, maybe you want to add that do not contact tag in your conditions just to be sure that nobody is getting anything they shouldn't be getting.
Right.
That's what I was saying earlier when we hopped on. Like, this is really easy to do. The hard part is having a strategy that makes sense. Yeah. Building it's actually really easy, but just having a strategy where you don't cross wires, you're not sending a weird message to the wrong people. Because frankly, if you're going to spend all this time doing this and automating it, like if it's not sending good messaging, then you should just have your agents call people.
Your point about that too, of like keep controlling the messaging somewhat, especially if we're talking about deal stage changes and that automating. Remember that when you're creating an action plan, you don't have to send the automated email. You could have an internal task that goes out to the assigned agent, send blank email template if needed, at the appropriate time, if you need to. Otherwise, ignore it. So that gives teams a little bit more control over what's going out. It's a, hey, let's do this if they need to, but you're controlling when it goes out. If you need to tweak it a little bit, like edit and send this template. Real quick too, I get this question a lot, so I want to address, if you want more text messages to go out as part of the action plan, we do have a great third-party system called Texting Buddy that will allow you to auto text from Follow Up Boss action plans. But if you're just looking for the workaround to do that our way, just straight up from the system, you do want to create a task for that. So you want to create your text templates in the system, pop in a task that says text template blank whenever that template needs to go out. And then that's you going into the profile. You're going to see that task in your task bubble right here, right in your tasks tab. So that's just a checklist item for that day. You'll pop into your text and send that template and then check off the task. So that is just a quick reminder of how you can do some texting from within the action plan, but you're going to get a reminder to pop it in the system.
Those are both great ads. Yeah. And we do that a lot too. Like send text template, buyer nurture number 2 or whatever. But yeah, make sure you name it clearly so agents don't have to think. They're like, oh, buyer nurture number 2, go.
Right.
And there's another piece of that you just said that I forgot what I was going to say, but it was relevant. Oh, the Texting Betty piece. Yeah, big fan. Texting Betty's super fantastic. You can arrange, you have a little more control over time and day. Like you can send it in the morning or any of that. It is an add-on program, but a really great way to add those things in and give you a little more control over what you're doing. It is just like all the other systems, though. It is going to be coming from yet a different phone number from your Follow Up Boss number because the FCC doesn't let you spoof numbers. So just be mindful of that, like a Ylopo Raya or a Texting Betty or Call Action, like any of those. They are going to be a different phone number, but they can be useful for helping to convert to get. Sometimes it may be introducing you to yourself if it's a different phone number, but
right.
That's another webinar.
Yeah. I'm Allison's admin. Okay, here she is. Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is great. I love how you covered it. So just to kind of recap, like find a plan or build a plan. If you're smarter than me, you could start with the email templates and then put them into an action plan, but I'll never learn that because it's 13 years of doing it that way.
It'll remind you quickly.
Yeah, it'll remind you real fast.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not there.
Yep.
Then manually applying some of those plans. And I know our topic is auto response, but obviously step 1 is auto response. If you want additional things, then it's a action plan.
Right.
But then, yeah, applying manually, getting things into the lead flow, for them to happen automatically on new leads only, and then automations to trigger when behavioral things take place, whether it's the agent changing the stage or the person going on your website or making a new inquiry or having a birthday. But I think, honestly, I look at a lot of people's accounts and I'm still shocked at how many people don't have some of these things set up that are relatively basic. And that's why we wanted to keep it pretty basic today, but also, again, explain how much at a high level, like how powerful, this is.
The sky's the limit. And that's why, I think it's easy to get in the weeds. Like, I want to use this, but what do I do? And that's why I recommend those recommended action plans first, just to give you, something to go on, to give you ideas if you did want to tweak or create your own. And also the action plan library, there really is no need to necessarily reinvent the wheel until you've checked out what other people have going on. And just to show you, they're categorized. You can see the title of the plan, preview it, and copy it right into your account. So if you have time to peruse that, that's great there for you too. But the recommended sheet, again, has that all in there. And then if you don't see what you're looking for, something I get asked a lot is closing anniversary email templates. Those are so personal, but we don't have one of those. So that's something where you would say, okay, I'm not seeing this in the recommended list. Let me create this myself and get that content in. So
I think I tend to, I hate to kind of end this way, but I really do, people do really kind of tend to overthink this. Like, what would you say to them if you called them on the phone for their closing anniversary? Like, write that down, dictate it into your phone, put it in Siri, and then paste it into an action plan. Like, and I couldn't agree more, Allison. There's no one blanket statement of like, hey, Bob, it was great working with you. Like, maybe it wasn't great working with him. Like, don't automate that, That
Right.
would be an email you really just want to personally send on their closing anniversary. But to your point, you can generate an automation that creates a task for you that says it's their birthday, write them a nice message or send them a Facebook message or whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
So again, like 100 different ways you can ultimately utilize this. It's just up to deciding what the best way is for you.
Yeah, exactly.
This was great. This was a great idea to cover this. Like, again, it feels like such a small thing, but it was easy to cover 45 minutes of how to do it and
Right.
the strategies and ideas. So,
Yeah.
any words of inspiration for somebody who's like, oh man, this is a lot. I don't have any of this. Like, I know I need to do this, but
Right. Start small. I mean, if you currently don't have a happy birthday email, that's like you start with the simplest things because that again is little touches that you can have going out that you're not even thinking about. You're not thinking about birthdays anymore. You do have to get the birthday in the custom field, but after that, the birthday email is just going to go out for you. So if you want to, and that's a good way to kind of test too, like, oh, I can see that they got the birthday email or I got an email back saying,
right.
thank you so much. So the closing anniversaries, the birthday templates, create that kind of stuff. And again, start with like, what do I want to get out here? Let me create that content first, or maybe it's some people, newsletters, whatever it is. Just think about what's important to you. What are we missing that we could really just be, getting those touches out. And again, if it's not a birthday thing, that's a great place to start. So that's my advice. Is just start small, don't go into the automations first and click and say, what's this crazy one? I would always just start small with the templates. Again, look at our recommended action plan sheet. That is really your guide to what most teams use. I have so many teams, almost all of my teams use the ones that we've got. Maybe they tweak them, maybe they just keep them, but they really are best practice. So start with best practices. And then as you get more creative or someone on the team says, I wish we had blank, there are so many things you can do with it. And remember that you can create only task-based plans as well. So if you are nervous to get started and you don't want automated stuff going out, build yourself a task-based plan so that you're getting the tasks, no harm, no foul. It's not going out to anyone, but you're seeing how that's kind of firing off too. So that's a good place to start as well, just tasks.
That's a great idea. And you mentioned one last thing I just want to reiterate before we wrap. Asking your team, like collaborating with other people, what would be helpful if we did, or what would be useful for you if we were going to do one of these, what would that be? And I find too, that really drives adoption. When you ask other people what they want and then you provide it, you're like, oh, we better use it now because we had a meeting about it and then we did it. But if you're just like, hey, we made this thing, go use it, you're less likely to get adoption than if people say, oh, it'd be cool if we could send a GIF on their birthday or make a bomb video that goes out on their birthday. Like, you could do all those things. That was
Exactly.
great. Great job running all that down, Allison. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, hopefully you guys were inspired. We'll send out the recording to everybody that registered. So whether you watch live or don't watch it live, we'll send out that recording. They're always on YouTube as well. We do these every first and third Thursdays with the Follow Up Boss CSM. And we hope to see you on another one. Allison, have an amazing day. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Lee. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.